Rachel Brown.
And I'm Brianna Dameron.
And you are invited to our breakfast club. Dear Mr. Vernon, we accept the fact that we had to sacrifice the whole Saturday in attention for whatever it is that we did wrong. But we think that you're crazy to make us write an essay telling you who we think we are. You see us as you want to see us, in the simplest terms, in the most convenient definitions. But what we found out is that each one of us is a brain, an athlete, a basket case, a princess, and a criminal. Does that answer your question? Sincerely yours, The Breakfast Club. Everyone can relate to a character in this film. Whether you see yourself as Claire, Bender, Andrew, or Allison, we all know what it's like to fit in and to not fit in. Social and gender roles within the film reflect not only that of the time period, but that of what we still see today. Both Brianna and I have experienced and witnessed social justice within cliques and our everyday experiences as young adults. By analyzing social and gender roles in The Breakfast Club, one can relate to the various characters and their struggles. After this presentation, you will be able to appreciate the film not only in terms of its analysis of mise-en-scene, but also have a better understanding of the social and gender roles that are present. Through the analysis of social justice, we can depict this film into a representation of society's opinions on youth today.
This critically acclaimed film begins on an early Saturday morning outside of a California high school. 5 teenagers slowly make their way from their parents' cars, or absence of one, and into a building for day-long detention. The audience can quickly see that these 5 people are as different as it gets. In the early stages of this movie, the hostility between them is almost tangible. However, a mutual dislike of authority stemming from their parents and resurfacing at being in contact with Principal Richard Vernon ultimately acts as a catalyst in bringing them together. By the end of the film, every character has broken out of his or her comfort zone and experienced a journey of self-discovery.
Analyzing this film using the different mise-en-scene elements, we can get a better understanding of what the director envisioned for the audience to take away from the scenes. We will be analyzing 3 scenes, and we'll first start with an introduction of the characters.
Well, well, here we are.
This scene is one of the very first times that the audience sees all 6 characters interacting with one another. The characters have just arrived to the school for their day of detention. As each student comes in, they take their seats. The library is a place for learning. Mr. Vernon asked the students to write an essay on who they are and why they think that. It is ironic that the detention takes place in a place of learning, and that they are asked to learn about themselves during their time in detention. The lighting in the scene is 3-point lighting. It is very bright, almost as if they are being watched under a spotlight to everyone, even though that they are the only ones in the school. The characters are all in their stereotypical costumes that fit the clique or social group that they belong in. Claire is in her nice clothes with her hair and makeup done. Andrew is wearing his wrestling leather jacket. Bender is in old, mangy clothes that are baggy and symbolize rebellious attitudes. Allison is in very conservative clothes that are much darker than the others. And Brian is in what you would typically see as what your parents would dress you in. The spacing in the scene is very spread out. When the students come in, they choose to sit away from one another, with the exception of Claire and Andrew. Because they are all in different cliques, they assume that they do not have to sit by one another. Allison isolates herself to the back of the room, Bender makes himself comfortable in his chair, and Claire and Andrew sit by one another because they are in similar cliques. The teacher in this scene is standing in front of the students, with the students sitting beneath him. His staging shows a sense of dominance and control, as he is the one in charge. The camera angle of the scene shows the room and the students as a whole body, giving the audience the bigger picture.
The next scene we'll watch involves a hostile encounter between the principal and Bender.
Knows it. Oh, hey, hey, come on.
Get on your feet, pal. Let's find out how tough you are. I want to know right now how tough you are. Come on. I'll give you the first punch. Let's go. Come on. Right here. Just take the first shot. Please, I'm begging you. Take a shot right here. Come on. Just take one shot. That's all I need. Just one swing. That's what I thought. You're a gutless turd.
At this point in the movie, the action is still taking place inside of the school building. Although the principal has isolated Bender from his friends and moved him elsewhere, he is still stuck inside the place that he hates. The lighting in this scene is 3 points. Perhaps this is to show the reality of the situation. Bender's clothing screams rebel. It's the sort of outfit that looks effortless to throw together, like he doesn't care about what anyone else thinks. However, there's a pretty good chance he does, he just does a nice job at hiding it. Up until this scene, the principal has been wearing his suit jacket. At the mention of a fight, he takes it off. He's trying to provoke Bender by making him appear vulnerable. The same thing happens with the incorporation of staging. They're in a small custodial closet to begin with, but Vernon goes even further to make Bender feel like he is powerless by getting right up in his face. Also, if you notice, Bender is sitting down in this scene while Vernon is towering above him. The use of space illustrates how trapped Bender feels internally because of the terrible authority figures in his life. Deep space is used to show the detail and emotion on each of their faces.
And next we will be analyzing a scene in terms of shots and lighting.
I tortured this poor kid because I wanted him to think that I was cool. He's always going off about, when he was in school, all the wild things he used to do. And I got the feeling that he was disappointed that I never cut loose on anyone, right? So I'm sitting in the locker room.
The scene in which Andrew tells us about how he got detention, a new type of camera shot is used. This is called an arc shot. It moves around him in a slow, circular motion. You get to see him from all the characters' point of views, as it awakens your attention on an extremely emotional level. It makes the viewer focus on only him and his story.
All right. Now we're going to talk about social analysis. The characters in this film all fit into a specific hierarchy. The so-called princess and athlete of the group are obviously at the top, the nerd is at the bottom, and the basket case and criminal don't even really fit into this ladder. During one scene, after they had all become close, these 5 are talking about their social statuses. The nerd asks what was going to happen the next day they were at school. The princess simply replies, "We're not going to be friends." Most of the characters do their best to maintain their place in society by doing exactly what is expected of them. This is true for all except the basket case and criminal, who are labeled freaks and outsiders. In both of their cases, their parents don't play a healthy role in their lives at all. The basket case's parents ignore her, and the criminal's parents abuse him. Neither of them have specific rules to follow, so they drift outside what is expected of them by society. However, those that do abide by the status quo are no happier. The athlete got in trouble trying to impress his father, the nerd attempted suicide after failing a shop class, and the princess thinks that the only reason her divorced parents interact is to get back at each other. Much of their problems and desires to fit into a particular social construct stem from their family lives. At one point, the princess asks, "My God, are we going to end up like our parents?" To which the basket case replies, "It's inevitable." As Paul Walsh from the Huffington Post remarks, we see the awakening of social skills in the Breakfast Club. In the clear light of a new understanding, life under parental and institutional standards appears dopey and restricting and just plain wrong. And as the film shows, it feels really good to push the new skills. Kind of like freedom, kind of like release, kind of like growing up. From the Hope K. Johnston blog post on the Breakfast Club, the question of which has more effect on the behavior, the way the characters were raised or their personalities, shows the classic psychological debate of nature versus nurture.
Next, we will talk about gender analysis. Society during this time viewed women as inferior to men. Within this gender analysis of the Breakfast Club, I will be talking about the female characters in relation to the male characters. The princess, also known as Claire, is perceived as the rich girl. She is popular, pretty, and seems to get anything and everything that she wants. However, we know that by the end of the film, all she really wants is to be independent from her overbearing friends and make her own decisions about herself. By the end of detention, the princess evolves from a soft-spoken popular girl to an honest and opinionated character. On the other hand, the men in this film are very masculine in character. They are perceived as athletes, the rebels, the smart ones, while females are perceived as the princesses and the basket cases. For example, Mr. Vernon plays a very dominant role as the teacher. He is strong, confident, and a stern man who threatens the students because of his power over them. The men play roles of dominance and leaders throughout the entirety of this film, while the women are the followers and the shyer characters. When we look at the characters' looks in the films, we also see a great distinction in the views of men and women during this time. Females are perceived as pretty, popular, well-dressed, and always wearing makeup. The princess symbolizes this image to a T. while the Basket Case does not. She's an outcast when it comes to appearance, as she dresses very grungy and dark. None of the men in the film notice the Basket Cake's looks until after her makeover by the princess. When the princess puts makeup on, new clothes, and a ribbon in her hair, she is totally transformed, and the athlete and nerd begin to notice her. This is a clear example of how the look of a female influenced her respect and her role in society. When we analyze the male characters, we immediately see this strong, aggressive role begin to take over. The athlete is athletic and good-looking, which is typical of what a male image would be seen during this time. The rebel character is also played by a male, who is aggressive, loud, arrogant, and confident. The nerd is also played by a male, as most females were not perceived as smart or intelligent during this time. They were always the strictly prissy, popular girls, and nothing more. According to Jessica Ballett in her essay on gender, these stereotypes do not play a role in their relationships when they do get to know each other altogether. When they are sitting down with one another, talking in strict conversation, they appear to be equal, without the cliques or social hierarchy. There is an equality amongst these characters during these times, even though they do not associate with one another outside of detention. These characters get to know one another, however they are very comfortable with their own role in society. It is not until the end of the film that they begin to see that they are all the same in their own ways, and that it does not matter what social clique or gender that they are. They can all come together and befriend one another.
By analyzing the social and gender roles in The Breakfast Club, one can easily relate and sympathize to the characters and their struggles. We have analyzed various scenes technically, as well as introduce you to the ideas of social identity and gender roles within the film, and how you might interpret the themes present in The Breakfast Club. We encourage everyone to be open-minded to all types of people in society. One cannot accurately judge someone and place them into a social hierarchy without fully understanding them as a person. We are too quick to judge those around us, so that sometimes we catch ourselves becoming our own worst enemy, and we are all athletes, princesses, criminals, basket cases, and nerds in this confusing and diverse world that we live in. Thank you.
Thank you.